the old model would be like, and then you market your merch afterwards. So you have this silly joke that you do so that people will buy the like fart whistle thing from your
keep
table
it in your
afterwards.
Ass. I've got keep it in your ass shirts. It's got like a hand covering the center of the butt.
Now you've cursed us to having to make a keep it in your ass.
Hey, pal.
Keep on counting, honeys.
Happy birthday,
us. And the idea of Mind Under Matter to the Mind Under Matter community, which started 1 year ago. This is season 2 of Mind Under Matter. And I guess we're just going to keep the episode numbers rolling.
Yeah, that's a hill I will die on.
Yeah.
Season 2, episode 1 hurts my soul, but episode 51, sign me up. Let's keep racking the numbers of things up. And I don't know, the echoes of, I'm always worried of falling into our already learned patterns of like television has seasons and this is we have to do it like it's a TV show because that's what we grew up with. But it doesn't make sense in today's world. We got to keep the numbers, baby. Keep the numbers.
Yeah, it is pretty, it's a special thing that in the 18 years this month that I started stand-up comedy, 18 years ago. And in that time, it was everything was try to get something, to catch this other thing, to get in a festival here, to get some award that'll get you in a bigger festival, to then get on late night. So then you can get a meeting with someone to have a manager do a thing. And then perhaps these powers that be will eventually just like give you a TV show or some opportunity.
Yeah, the
like
gatekeeper paradigm.
And now there's not, for better or worse, there's some advantages to the gatekeepers, which is like now comedy clubs and stuff like that are just filling with whatever Instagram or TikTok stars or that aren't necessarily good comedians. But that's always been the case where clubs fill with like, this person was on a soap opera. Like not even a funny. Are you familiar with that thing?
There's not like specifically soap opera, but no, I totally get that. If they fill in seats, that's I totally get it, because at the end of the day, they're a bar and a restaurant. And the comedy is secondary because otherwise the lights go off.
I get that as a club. I don't get that people are like, that person was on a soap opera. Sweet. I'm going to the comedy club to watch them do stand-up comedy. One of the harder, it's a very difficult, I mean, some of us like take to it a little easier, or it's like more natural for some people, but it's a very difficult art form for a lot of people to jump into. I'm not saying that because like you and I are pretty good at it. I'm saying it because we've like been to enough open mics to go like, holy shit. This is when I forget that stand-up's a hard thing to do. You just need to go to an open mic. You're like, oh, this is a really hard thing for people to do.
Yeah, same with acting though. Like acting is very difficult to do well, or to at least not just do well, but to be that next level of be a chameleon or really lose yourself in a character that is like you or something. But people especially don't like to hear that or a comedy is hard, because deep down everyone thinks that they could do it if they just went up there. They could come up with new material every single time and kill it. Mm-hmm. Like most people that have never sat on stage once, they're like, I could probably do an hour. Like I've got a good hour of this one story. I went to my cousin's house and he tried to fish for catfish, but he ended up catching a hammerhead shark. Now wait, okay, this is where it gets good. They hate when people interrupt their own story with like, okay, here's where it gets good. Don't lose. Let me not lose your attention yet.
People have a lot of if you came to my work, this is it's basically, my office is basically a comedy show.
Yeah.
And you would get so much material. 1 second. There we go. By the way, look at us. We have we got new cameras, new lighting, all sorts of stuff. And if you're watching on, and now Spotify has the availability to have video as well, or maybe you're a YouTuber or whatever. I don't think there's other ways to see it yet. Hopefully other apps keep adapting this, but even if you look back at old clips and stuff, you'll be like, oh, that does look better. If you're watching on a TV, it's going to be significantly better for those of you that are, as the world gets smoother and smoother into like you're watching a thing on your phone and then you're like, you know what, I'm just going to throw this on the TV instead.
You can flick any media onto any other media.
Yeah. And then, but the other thing that you don't get to see or don't get to notice, especially if you're like, I'm just an audio listener, what do I care? Well, our editor, Matt McCool, who, as you know, our staff lives in a dungeon. They have to drink their own urine.
Yep.
And you know, it's no way to live, but it's what you have to do to break into the arts, of course. But there's just the miracles he did. We had like crappy little web cameras and stuff, and he would just make miracles happen to make it look passable. And we had a good quality product for the equipment and stuff we were using. And now we're pros and we're saving him hours a week, which is going to lead to more highlights, more awesome possibilities. And we're growing up. We're 1 year old.
And this is all Shane, by the way. If it was up to me, this would not have a video component at all. Not like if I was in charge, but just the drive to do that extra level of stuff. Like I was never thinking of that. I'm like, this will be an audio show. We won't even have a logo. We're just having a good time. And then it was like slowly ramping up. But then once I was into the video, I'm like, oh, this video is kind of cool. I'm glad we have the video. I'm glad that we have an editor that does it and that we don't do it. I'm glad that the editor is playing with animation, knows what he's doing, has us in the makeup chair for a while. We upgrade the camera to the, I guess we had 720p before, and now we've upgraded to 4K all within a year. And
we were at 15 frames per second before. When you tell people that in the future, it will be like shooting on black and white or something like that. So if you were watching on a TV, there'd be trails and stuff, and I'd throw my hands around everywhere. We got 30 frames per second now.
Double the frames for the same price. Not for us, but for you, the viewer, it costs the same to watch it.
But no, the frames.
But you're the, I'm always trying to figure out what we are like in terms of our roles, and it's tough to make comparisons like to what we are as Ninja Turtles or something. But I'm the aesthetic, you know.
Why are you? You're like, it's so hard to compare us to Ninja Turtles.
Like, are you Donatello?
You don't have to.
I'm Donatello, or am I Michelangelo? You're definitely the. For example, with Mumfest, the festival that's coming up in September, like that's also the spark of that is all you, the video component, all you, but like the artwork and stuff is me, but the driving spark of the big ideas, because you get into states where you're like, yeah, we can do this, we can do big thing, and then we can. But I'll never start with we can do big thing. I'm like, maybe we can do little thing, maybe.
Yeah, we started. It was like a fully formed show from the beginning, and we're super proud of it. We built such an awesome audience. We just had a focus group on Patreon for the year end, and I think we're going to do them like at least quarterly or something. I think maybe we'll do one much sooner for just specific to the festival.
Yeah, everyone in the focus group was great. I would hang with every one of them individually, as a group, with their friends, with drawings of them.
Yeah,
great.
I have. We got lovely feedback, but it's also just it was just I was reflecting on it and like, man, we had a fully formed show from the start, and then it only got better, and now we're adding a festival to it, so it's exciting. We always the grind was, especially when COVID happened, they sold out the first web camera that I got. I had to drive 2 hours to get a suitable web camera because I already had audio, everything. All recording equipment was gone. Like if you think toilet paper was low for a period of time, a global pandemic happened and there was a rush on toilet paper and fucking webcams.
Oh, what are people doing?
And podcasting equipment. Not just, you get webcams
Shitting
for like everyone's going to be on Zoom and stuff like that, but like everyone started a podcast. So you're competing with all these things, and then everyone does the like, and then people big names started adding like 2 and 3 podcasts that there. It's like, all right, and now we all need to have 2 to 3 podcasts.
Yeah.
We need to add video. We have to have highlights. We have to.
Does that
like,
make,
oh my God.
That kind of made me more comfortable with it. I don't know where my reluctance with video came from. It's just general. I don't know, insecurity, I guess. But when you see that everyone starts doing a video component, you're like, oh, everyone's doing it. Then it's not a big deal. If there's video of you being ridiculous or saying a stupid thing that doesn't age well in 5 years, it's like, it's everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. And like we always, every podcast in the world wants like to reach more people, because the amount of people that would like the show is always, you're never going to find every potential person that would like the show, because you got to get on a zillion different podcasts.
Yeah. And there's more people being born every day, and you're like, got to get some of those, get them in young.
Yeah,
get them programmed in early, like a religion. So they're saying keep on salivating before they say mama or dada. They're saying soft rock before milk. They're saying too easy before I hate you to their parents.
Little honey cubs. Got to get those honey cubs going.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been, but then the quality that, because I obsessively, so our dynamic is, because there's
good.
Matt McCool editing all of it.
It's real good.
And then Rhianna helps out with social media and stuff. But basically from the start, it's been like, well, only Ramin can make the art and do like the website stuff and put the merch together. And that's a lot. So I'm just going to do everything else. And then on reflection, I'm like, I'm just kind of suited for it, at least when I'm not miserably depressed and falling apart. I'm like, oh, I just like talking people's ears off about all of the possibilities and piecing because the puzzle pieces start coming together as you start going, and I get excited about Mum Fest. I've been trying to do some sort of festival situation for years. I've been
ScienceCon.
I'm like, what is exactly the right? And I just wait for that spark. You just keep hashing it out and brainstorming, and then one day it goes, oh, that's it.
Yeah,
and that's what Mum Fest was.
Fully formed idea. But when it's not there, you're like, come on, what can I do to actively grow it? But like John Cleese says in his book that's 8 pages long, you think about it a little bit, you go to bed, and then the subconscious does some work, and then you come back to it later and you didn't even know that it was passively doing equations for you. I'm
so pro sleep, pro nap, pro subconscious, choice. Obviously pro choice. Because like in planning an episode, I like to just look at the calendar and figure out what I think like the next 4 or 5 weeks might look like. And then I just tell kind of Ramin sort of what I'm thinking. And I'm just a big believer in planting a lot of seeds, hashing things out, and then not grinding. Because outside of that, like, yeah, I do research or whatever, or when I'm like really, my favorite moments are when I'm able to just sit and read a book because it's awesome. And I sometimes get to have my mind blown and come up with new ideas. But I rarely get to do that because I don't have enough time. But just constantly, like once a week, checking in, looking at the calendar, being like, oh, we have a bicycle day episode. Here's what we could do for that. Here's some conversations about LSD. Here's some conversations about Easter that we could have about spring and Easter eggs. And okay, maybe I could go that angle. And then just having it on my mind, like starting in the morning with having a couple things on my mind and then just having it through the day, just sort of like if I'm at pickleball or whatever, I want to not be thinking about it and then suddenly be like, oh, that's it.
Yeah.
That's where that's most of my work is, just setting my subconscious up to do things, to just deliver me gems. And sometimes you have to wait a really long time for one of those gems. But I'm just such I have a lot of faith in the old subconscious. It's so much better than grinding. What's your, in terms of like when you think of an art piece, because we have a similar thing with the art at the end of each episode, we hit stop. Sometimes we hash it out on the air, but we hit stop and then we usually go like, oh, what do you think about this? What about this idea? And it's never, whatever the first idea we said, there's probably been like 2 episodes where we're like, that's it. Yeah, that's the one.
We know when it is. But then otherwise it starts as a little seedling and then it evolves into something that's unrecognizable from the initial one, or maybe contains 50% of the initial idea and then becomes something else. But I was never good at, I mean, it's good to brainstorm as seeds, but like when there was ever pressure, not with you, like in the past with group projects or something, pressure to brainstorm and then come up with the fully formed idea in a room of 5 people, like, and then what are we going to have for the idea? It's like, that's not how you do it. You'd think of it a little bit, you go off on your own, then it comes to you in the shower or something like that. But the doing like, and then you're also dealing with the social dynamic of like, oh, I shouldn't interrupt Ted and Bill is thinking over here and like Ed's shoes are stupid or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've been in a writer's room once ever, and that's kind of what it felt like. I was in a writer's room for 1 week.
Is that for Moshe's show or who was it?
Yeah, for Moshe's
Canceled
show.
With Moshe Kasher. Or no, it was called the something
problematic.
Duh, of course it's called Problematic.
And I was like, I could see myself being in a writer's room, but at the same time, like knowing what I know from just learning about the subconscious and having been a comedian and everything else, it just doesn't seem as conducive to generating the ideas.
Yeah, freshly baked stale bread is what you end up coming out with a lot, which is why so many, maybe not the whole reason why, but just so many cartoons and stuff, it feels so writing-y. Like it feels like someone got together in a lunchroom kind of vibe and wrote down, this is what kind of seems funny, right? Okay, it passed inspection, now they'll animate it and it goes on TV and no one cares 3 years later.
Yeah. I love
general shit talking. Like I'm not making fun of one cartoon or something. It's like just in general, all of it is not up to my standards as a perfect human. No, sorry, perfect God art. I'm not even an artist. I am art.
I am. You are art. So what's your like usual mum art practice? Basically what
we talk about it during the episode, a little bit after the episode. Then man, I don't know. Then when it comes time to be like, okay, I better get something going here, then I revisit the old notes, or it just occurs naturally to me, and then I don't have to do the crunch time thing. It's like, oh, I want to make this now because it came to me naturally, but I don't even think about it that much. It's kind of weird to think about the underlying process of it, but and there's some tinkering too. I'll tinker with like the sentence, like this is too long. This is short, but it doesn't read well when you're going 80 miles an hour down your social feed. Like what reads well and isn't too long and works in that sense. And then also you got to like put a time limit on yourself, because then you'll never finish it.
Yeah. It's been, I have.
It's been cool seeing it in Spotify. Like, I don't know if the other platforms do that yet, but seeing the episode art as you're scrolling down, that's kind of fun.
That was in the focus group. People were blown away by both of the art, but the new video feature.
Yeah. And you don't expect it to pop up. You just click on it and then all of a sudden video is there.
Which, speaking of new fancy things, I actually have, here's the debut on the show. So I posted on Patreon. We now have the ability where people that are on Patreon can we post a link once in a while instead of writing the question for a Q&A episode or comment or whatever. Now you can leave a voice note and we can answer it. And this is the debut of it from the show. You want to hear a voice note?
Our
for
first
the birthday?
VM.
We got new cameras. We got new features.
VM.
And this is,
whoops. VM is virtual machine.
Thanks to Anchor.fm is they're owned by Spotify, and they reached out to us because our stuff is so high quality visually that we're still one of the only podcasts on all of Spotify that has video, which is crazy.
Yeah, Rogan is still shooting at 480p. We're the only 4K boys in town.
It is crazy. And so fortunate. And so, but they don't just, so that's Spotify, but it has a bunch of different features for all platforms. So we're not exclusive. It's just it's not like, no one's paying anyone or anything like that.
Unfortunately, believe me, we would love for anyone to be paying us.
Terrorists, whoever. But anyway, they just have a bunch of awesome features, and so we're thrilled. So here's the first ever voice note on Mom, and if you want to leave
we've screened it, right?
Comment,
it's not bad.
Check on. Yeah, I screened it.
Okay, good.
If you want to leave a comment or whatever, and by the way, everyone's phone has varying qualities. So this first one is, medium quality, and then we're going to hear some that are really great, crisp quality as well. But
brace yourselves is what you're trying to say.
Brace yourselves.
Yeah, you're used to first class audio in your ears right now, crisp, buttery, high fidelity sound, and now you're going to go back to 1998. So here we go.
Hey, Shane and Ramin. This is Tony. I had participated in the focus group with you guys and the other mummies about a week ago. Just thinking about your 1-year anniversary. Was wondering what you guys thought about where you were now after a year, where you thought you were going to be when you started this out, what hopes you had for the podcast, what direction you thought it would go in as compared to the direction it's gone in. The growth of the community seems to be kind of exploding right now. I signed up for Patreon about a month ago. There were 190 Patreons. I checked this morning. There are 237. So I was just curious to hear what you guys thought about how much you've grown and where it's going and where you want it to go and what you hope for the future.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's like a question we planted or something, but it's not. It just feels like one we would want to be asked. But that just shows.
I screened the questions.
Oh, okay.
there were some that got left out for sure.
Have you ever had sex on LSD? And what is it like doing psychedelics such as DMT? Do you have any more stories?
That's a very good guess.
Yeah.
That's a very good guess.
I'll tell you stories. I'll just make stuff up. I'll use it as an exercise to make up creative writing on the spot. Freestyling.
Yeah, people just did some random stuff too. It was I encourage experimentation. Just sometimes not everyone's stuff is going to make the cut. but yeah. So I mean we covered a little bit of that already. What do you think is Yosh playing with your background?
Yeah. I wish you could see his entrance. That was great. Hey, bud. Yeah, I left the door open because I knew he was going to meow at the door and I would have to get up and pause and stuff. So I just left the door a crack open. So then he just pushes it with his nose and then you saw the curtain jiggle and then he made his grand entrance. So he's here for the answer of the Q&A, which is, would you like to go first or should I? Or should we break it up into pros and cons? Like what are some places where we overachieved our expectations and where are some places we fell short?
Yeah, I think that's like the general gist.
Yeah.
Yeah, what do you think?
I had no expectations of financially or listenership, so we've overachieved there. I never thought like, oh, okay, by this time next year we'll probably be making da da da. It just never occurred to me. I was like, it'll be cool if in a year from now we're still doing it, and if the production quality is raised, and if we still have the magic, and we're still not like just repeating old patterns. If we're doing new stuff, discovering new things, growing the world, that's what makes me happy about it. Because I know that if I just have financial expectations, I'm going to be disappointed because I'm always disappointed by my financial expectations of the year. Every time I've tried to do that, it's just been no bueno.
Yeah. It's been nice just to have time to build. I had financial goals and listenership goals, which we definitely fell short of, but that's only because I had high ambition. It wasn't like, it was the goal that I sent. It wasn't exactly, we had numbers in mind.
Yeah, you shot
for
the moon.
It wasn't exactly what I thought was going to happen. It wasn't like, this is what I'm expecting to have happen. It was just what I was hoping would happen.
And
so I would say that we did pretty well.
And I was coming at it from at the time when we started, it was 2021. So this is post ultimate, postmodern oversaturation internet landscape. Yeah. So how could I have any expectations of anything, any drop in the bucket making any sort of wave? So the fact that we've grown as much as we have is really, really cool.
Yeah.
Like we have over a dozen listeners now. That's amazing.
We have less listeners than I thought maybe we would have by now, especially because the early indications we have big jumps early on. But it's tricky because it's like, oh, you got to get on enough podcasts. I'm not in LA. That's just a never ending battle of figuring that out. The number of people that we have on Patreon per listener is pretty decent. And then our Patreon retention, once people are there, is killer. And our Patreon supporters are like super generous and everything else. And that was one of the things from the focus group where lots of people were like, why aren't you just telling people that they get their own episode for $5?
We never thought of it that way because we never thought about, I don't remember if the original Mind Under Arts had like, we were plugging their Instagram handles and stuff. We never planned to do that, but we were like, oh yeah, why don't we give them a little shout out here? Why don't we show their page on the video? And then it grew into like, oh, they're basically getting their own episode when they choose a piece of art for us to talk about. And
And we also just decided on the focus group, running it by everyone, we decided that that episode is yours. If we made an art episode for you, you get to share it with your friends, even post it on social media, whatever, because that episode's yours. So you can do whatever you like with it. And that's something that, like, early on, we're like, but if you didn't pay and get behind the paywall, how do we figure out to keep everything locked up behind the paywall and do that? And like, but if it's their episode, they should get to. So that was a thing that we just changed for season 2. So I like tweaking things. It's a bunch of stuff that probably the average listener, especially if you've never heard this show before, and this is the first one that you're tuning into.
Oh, like, terrible choice.
It's just about terrible choice. It's just about the show itself, turning one and reflecting on the year.
Yeah, we better inject some pop culture fast, or we're going to lose the first time listeners who picked this as the first one. So Machine Gun Kelly had gay sex with Kanye last week.
You don't say.
And there's not a video of it, but the audio is very convincing. And I think I applaud them both. I think it's great.
I think that I am so thrilled that our show is evergreen and that we don't talk about the TMZ news of the day and this
at our own detriment.
At our own detriment, but our own mental health. Mm-hmm. And not only that, but it's not just it's not just about building an audience. It's about building your audience that you want, that likes what you are interested in saying, that gets who you are, that's going to be interested in, like, coming to a festival, or if you make a book or whatever else. That's the people that we're after anyway. We're never it's just, we're not going to be the Perez Hilton or like,
if he's still around. Probably is.
I don't know if he's even, because
that's 2010 sort of blog internet. He might still be doing stuff, but I think about, for example, like a while back when there was the Chris Rock, Will Smith slap at the Oscars, and immediately
back, it's still all people talk about.
A while back, yeah, but there's YouTube compilations of comedians react to the Will Smith Chris Rock slap, and you've got like Rogan, Tom Segura, Andrew Schultz, Bobby what's his name, not Bobby Kelly, Bobby Lee, or Bobby Kelly too maybe, but all of them. And then you kind of think to yourself, like, even if I was going to discuss all that stuff, what are the odds I even have something that wasn't already said by them already? So why even bother? Why even throw my noise into it? Like, they've got that handled. They all do a good job at it. Like, we can only be us and try to be evergreen.
Oh my God. It's just like, it really, people actually care about. It's just drove me crazy my whole life. I even hate that we're talking about it right now, but we're only talking about it as an example of the sorts of things we make an effort to avoid. I was on Instagram and I went through, and there was a comic who's like a podcaster that I don't know much about, but I would say that I respect the things that I've seen enough. And they posted a thing about it, and they're like, before we judge Will Smith, first of all, there was a lot more going on behind that than you realize. Like, if you first read Will Smith's autobiography and know his upbringing, and then read the book The Body Keeps the Score, which is a fantastic book. You should read the book The Body Keeps the Score. Then you'll understand that every action, it's kind of like, this is the stuff that I should be into. Like, we did the Sapolsky episode, like the behaviors past all of our evolutionary history, childhood development that goes into a single given behavior. But this is the behavior that you're caring about. What you're telling me is I need to read 2 fucking books to understand Will Smith slapping Chris. What the fuck is wrong with everybody.
A lot, but mainly that we have no memory and that we're little, we're lemmings. And I mean, it's cliche to even call people sheeple, not that we're above being sheeple, but it's such a chasing the ball sort of thing. Like when there's a main thing of the day, we can't help ourselves. We love as a species to cling to whether we love it, hate it, or have a nuanced both sides opinion about the thing of the day. We can't help but like focus in on the thing of the day.
I mean, it's like it's legitimately like my mission to find ways to, like, the reason why I want to have like a festival and have people show up and meet one another, because I saw what that was like when I did the psychedelic tour, and I saw what it was like when people got to, like, yeah, there's some crazies and some fucking weirdos and stuff like that, sure, but the majority of the people that showed up were like all awesome, artsy, interesting, intelligent people. Most of them had were like, you know, there's a lot of like older or affluent people, you know, people that had their head on their shoulders, not some cliche or whatever. And I would do like meet and greets afterwards and get to meet people, and they get to meet one another and have something in common with one another. And the idea, because I think so much of it, because it's sports too, I think so much of it, because plenty of people that I respect the hell out of are just obsessed with sports. And it's just another one of those things that I just don't fucking get, why you wouldn't just play sports if you're interested in them instead of watching them and spending all of your time analyzing, like, but what if this person gets traded when, and do you think they're going to retire, and why in the world you would ever give a fuck about any of that is beyond me, but people do. And
you do get
I
it,
think
though.
A lot of it is, I get it in ways, but I also think a lot of it is people just simply want to like relate to one another. Mm-hmm. And it's difficult to relate to people about subject matter that they haven't heard about. It's difficult to just have a conversation about evolutionary biology with a stranger. It's difficult to have a conversation about like simulation theory or whatever, you know, whatever floats your boat, or, you know, the many people that you've had on your podcast, or like the many scientists or academics that I've had on, like you hear some awesome episode about insects, and now you don't have anyone to like have a conversation with insects about. And when people praise my retention quite a bit, it's because I get to have conversations about the subjects. It's just like, if I listen to someone having a sports conversation, it blows my mind, like the amount of statistics that they're remembering and like calculated. Well, I don't know if that person would be a fit because they already have this thing over here. Like, and that's just what I nerd out on, is like science and evolution stuff. And but like, how do you create a community where people can just share, can have the water cooler talk that they want to have, which is what social media and the internet has created an opportunity for, whether it's actually doing it effectively and whether there's like a zillion wrong things happening with it as well, is like, I shouldn't say besides the point, is another matter altogether, I'll say. But it certainly creates the opportunity to find like whatever fan page of whatever weird band and like relate to people in a different state.
Tribes, because there's all this talk of like, you know, finding your tribe, but really we're all in a lot of different tribes. Like you might be in the Mind Under Matter tribe, but then you're also in the Your Mom's House tribe. But then someone else who's your friend might not be in Your Mom's House, but then they might love Come Town. And then someone else hates Come Town, but they love Time Suck, or on and on and on. Like there's like crazy Venn diagrams going of what communities you're in. And Google tried to make that happen, but they were missing something. They didn't have the magic. It's too many engineers there, not enough magic design people, or whatever the problem was. But do you remember Google Circles, where you would have circles and then you could add people to your circle? Like, okay, these are my sports friends. These are my psychedelic friends. These are my comedy friends. And You could have overlapping.
I was never in on that.
I think they shut it down.
That's an interesting idea.
Yeah, it was a great idea. And some people were like, hell yeah, this is the refuge away from Facebook and Twitter, but it didn't catch on. And having people in the club is way more important than what kind of drinks you have there or the music you're playing or like, because you remember back when, I don't know when the last time you went to a bar was, but I remember it confused me the first time thinking like, what, this bar is so clean and it looks nice and they've got great selection and it's not crowded, but that's not why people go to it. People want to go to the dirty one that's expensive and sucks and people are mean, but it's got the heat. Everyone's there. So that's how it goes with social media. So Google has failed maybe 2 or 3 times. Google Buzz, total flop. Google Plus, total flop. I forget if there was a third one or not, but no, they tried to do the overlapping tribes thing. So maybe one day someone will figure that out. But
yeah, it's always that it's the there's so many issues with logical solutions to things.
It should work logically. Why doesn't everyone get on board with my logic system? Yeah, it's the curse of like ultra intelligent, organized people. They're like, why doesn't everyone just get on board with my system? It's perfect. It's organized. We'd be happier. Nope. Sorry. I know it makes sense.
When I was younger, I would have been like, you have something logical? Let me invest money into your very logical thing. That makes sense. And so because it makes sense, people are gonna love it.
Yeah.
And now if you convinced me that your product was logical, I'd be like, that's cool that you did that.
Yeah.
And you aren't getting a penny.
Exactly. Tim Dillon had a great line about how being rational today is the most irresponsible thing you can do. You've got some idea for a very rational business that makes sense. Like, it's the biggest mistake you'll ever make. And I think one of the examples it's just a throwaway example, but he was talking about like if who is it, Corinne Fisher and Georgia Hardstark, is that who it is, whoever does Corinne Fisher and whoever else does Guys We Fucked, if you came to me and said, hey, we're gonna start a podcast called Guys We Fucked, I would say like, no, don't do that, that's a terrible name, that's a terrible idea. Or My Favorite Murder, don't start a murder podcast, that's a terrible idea. Wrong. Excellent idea to both of them, and no one had done it before and they killed it, and I think they're still killing it probably.
I think My Favorite Murder is the biggest podcast that there is. That isn't nice. Well, since according to all of the charts, because now that Rogan's exclusive to Spotify, he's off all of the other
no, I'm a fan of all. I don't listen to either of those, but I am a fan of both of I know Karen and Corinne. I think they're both really funny. But the other two I don't remember. Sorry. Maybe they're not even the most famous of those two. Maybe I'm remembering the less famous one, but they're probably equal famous and I just don't remember it.
Karen Kilgariff.
Yeah, Karen Kilgariff. Kill giraffes. That's probably something she got a lot in elementary school.
I'm thrilled to be able to just like, one of the reasons why I love podcasting so much is getting to share the things that I like talking about, and it does help me remember, and then it helps me create ideas, and I'm forced to as well. So I have a panic attack or running out of episode topics and ideas, and then I'll just go. Usually I just find. Early it was like the first season was easy because it was just like, well, if I could just tell people this concept and this concept and this concept, this is what I wish the world knew about. Just start from there. Start with what I wish I could share with everybody that no one knows about, or like the general the public doesn't know about.
Gen Pop.
Start from there. And then sometimes it gets a little harder once you get off that, but it's, the ideas keep on coming in. It's super fun to do. You want here? Yeah,
it's a silly fear to have. You're never going to run out of cave paintings to draw on the wall.
Right.
That's all we're doing here.
You want another voice note,
yes.
Or do you want me to read something?
Let's do voice.
Okay. So now I'll give you a good quality one. Here we go.
Happy birthday, boys. It's Lemmy. As I listen to back episodes, I see that most of my ideas have already been taken, which is great. I'm in the right place. So I just wonder, since this is a birthday episode, what the two of you individually think about aging yourselves. Have a great rest of the day.
The way he put the inflection on that, it sounded like artificially aging ourselves. What do you think about aging yourself? But he's like, what do you think about aging yourselves? So
far we've learned that Lemmy has a better phone than Tony.
Yeah.
Or Tony rattles around his phone or something. Is that too big of one for us to get into? Should we save the aging one?
No, let's talk about it a little bit. We can always
talk about it. Yeah.
And plus we're not even close. Like we could be dead next week, of course, but we might think of ourselves as, or at least me, I'm thinking like, oh, I used to be worried about aging and turning 30. And then after that, I was like, whatever, 30 and 100 are the same. But I haven't really experienced the true power of the dark side of aging, of like one day waking up, just your shoulder just doesn't work or something, or the way my parents are always like, we're getting old. We don't remember stuff anymore. They've been telling me that since they're 40, like any sort of thing that revolves forgetting something. It's, getting old, forgetting. But I haven't really felt the aging of that. But no, of course, aging sucks. You get less energy, you fall apart more. There's less whimsical wonder than when you were a kid. There's less hormones blasting through you. But you're also calmer. You have more experience. Yeah. You discover Ram Dass on YouTube. You watch a lot of that. You realize that this is a 1984 human model, perfectly decaying at the rate it's supposed to. If it wasn't, then that would be weird. Of course, it's supposed to decay. That's what it's built into the system. So I don't know. It's all good with me. It doesn't mean I enjoy it, but I feel like I've made my peace with it somewhat. What about you?
I feel like I never cared about death or dying or existence or anything until it's either COVID or turning 40. Both happened roughly the same time. Whatever it was, I think about dying a fair amount. Oh, and moving in with my parents at the same time because of it, and just seeing them aging up close and thinking about like my sister is taking over my dad's business and stuff like that. And my mom retired. He's maybe going to retire in a couple of years or something. And like,
damn, that's serious if your dad's retiring, because he doesn't stop.
To the age. Yeah, my dad won't actually retire. But it just, I just find myself thinking about death quite a bit. It suddenly, and I was traveling so much. I mean, from the age of 23, so, before you're 23, I was just like partying and stuff like that before 23. 23, I start becoming a comedian and still partying a bunch and then catching breaks. And now I'm just traveling around the globe. And before COVID, I was in 3 cities a week, going to festivals and doing all these crazy things and putting together. I was zipping and zapping so much upon reflection that I didn't even realize it until I stopped. And it's like a source of, I was loving it. I remember absolutely loving it. And then when I stopped for a while, I was like, I can't do that again. That's insane. Like, you can't just do like 3 cities a week and like,
because you ramped up to
equipment around, and
you ramped up to that level, and then you could carry that weight. And I remember my brother saying the same thing with like his PhD and stuff, where he thinks about, if I had to do all that now, I can't imagine that I ever did that. Not even now, even back then. It makes no sense that I did it. I just happened to do it. Or coming up with an hour of material or whatever it is, which is what our episode is about today somewhat. It's the don't go from 0 to 60, go from 0 to something. And if you're trying to go to 60 all of a sudden, you won't hit it. But if you lie to yourself and say, I'm just going to do 1 push-up. All right, I'm just going to do 5. Okay, I'm just going to do 5 more. And then eventually you like get more blood pumping through the system. And then before you know it, you're in 3 cities a week, booking scientists at every show, carrying a projector around, doing whatever else, getting drinks with fans afterwards, planning stuff with Banana on the phone to the next city. It's nuts. Where do you find time to look at garbage on YouTube?
I didn't. I listened to audiobooks. All I did was listen to like audiobooks for hours during every drive. And then I was so busy. I was thinking about it. Because I basically hired Banana full time just to listen to me talk on the phone and like run ideas by her and write them down so I wouldn't forget, because I knew I wouldn't check my voice notes.
Yeah.
If I actually just checked my voice notes, I wouldn't have needed a human being, but I didn't. So I had to hire a human being to just be, and then, but I was thinking about how busy I was. There was a time, because I talked about, there was the question about picking up a hitchhiker. And I talked about when I picked one up in Oregon, I was going down to California. And I picked up a hitchhiker mostly because I was like, I wonder if this hitchhiker would drive my car so I could get some computer work done, because we had some things go wrong. So I picked up a hitchhiker so I could get computer work done and fucking nap. That's how. And it happened, right? Insanely busy. Yeah. And it happened.
Man.
It was, So. Looking back on that, well, being an alcoholic, mind you, and then getting very drunk, often. Yeah, it's funny to think about.
That's a decade ago, right?
Yeah, I mean,
when did you get embarrassed about the number? Because like at first, when you start stand up, you're like, oh, I'm 5 years in. I'm 6, or not when you start, but you're proud of like, I'm 5 years in, seasoned pro, 7 years in, seasoned pro. Then once you get to 10, it's kind of like, okay, 10. And then once it's more than 10, it's like, ugh, I kind of don't like that number anymore. Because in my head, I thought 10 years in meant I'm a Bill Burr, I'm a Mitch Hedberg at this point. I'm fully formed, but it's never enough. You're never fully formed. You're always a failure.
Yeah, I guess just as soon as, it's just more of a reflection of where I am now. If I'm broke, yeah, I'm like, I'm 17 years in and I don't have a penny to show for it. If things are killing it, I'm like 17 years in, know what I'm doing, rocking it, got it all together. It just depends on because right now I'm like, oh, I can put together a festival, which 20 years ago would have been like, who does that? Like, who puts together a festival? That's not just a thing that people can do.
Shane
and
Stock.
You can't just start.
Shane Stock 69.
I actually always did shit like that anyway. I remember I got a friend's land when I was like 19 or 20 or something. I got all of everyone during the summer. I got a hold of everyone that we went to high school with and like the grades above and below, and got like this huge farmland and got like everyone was underage. I got kegs, food. I got everything together. I was already doing similar things when I was like 19 or 20. And then once we had like 60 people, but because we wouldn't give people the address or anything, so they had to park at this one lot, and then they would have to follow someone all through this area. And once there was too many cars, so there was just a train of like somewhere between 50 and 100 cars going through like an old farm road. And so a cop just pulled it all over and was like, what the fuck is this? And they're like, I don't know. We're just people out driving. Just 100 cars in the middle of nowhere.
All right, just keep that skin white over there.
Just a bunch of just 100 cars full of 19-year-olds.
No warning, just carry on.
Yeah, and then but then everyone ended up dispersing and stuff, and it was a horrible flop because then none of them could find it and everything. I mean, it was a nice time for the people that were already there, but I lost a bunch of money on all of the brats that I bought.
You still have them with with Sophia's books.
Yeah,
just hot dogs and books about ayahuasca rotting in your garage.
Yeah. So now when I think about aging, sometimes I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to die, or I need enough money for retirement, or I need to like get my shit together, or blah, blah, blah. But it's also adulting. Adulting gets easier and easier. And now I just have an incredible network of people because I've interviewed so many scientists. I'm like, what would be good to do at the festival is have someone talk about the evolution of festivals and stuff for a live Here We Are podcast. And that might make for fun, like Mind Under Matter material and stuff as well. And I'm like, oh, I know just the person to contact at Duke University to we're supposed to get on the phone this weekend to hash it out. And and then they can get other people. And then I know 3 other people at Duke that can come. And that's just like a random city where I just happen to know perfect people to contact. I know people that put on other festivals like it. I know people like the weird worlds that I'm in the scientific community, I'm in the psychedelic community, and I'm in the comedy community. And I've made like a documentary. I know people that can I might make a special soon on my own, and just like the number of connections that I've been able to gain in the amount of years is crazy. It's insane.
Yeah, we take that for granted. And the jaded part about it too, like being jaded is also, it's a feature, not just a bug. Because I'm thinking about how excited I was to have something I designed be on a wall of a restaurant. Like I designed a South by Southwest flyer for some band I don't even remember anymore. This is like in the mid 2000s. I'm like, the flyer I designed that I was hired to make is on the wall of that restaurant no one goes to. Do you want to go walk by the restaurant? You can see it. You can see it. My name isn't on it, but I can show you the source file to prove that I made the completely boring flyer that just blends in with all the other ones. But you just get impressed with. And when I was back in the early days of the internet, I was impressed that I could have my name on a website. That was a huge thing. For like Star Wars X-Wing versus TIE Fighter Squadron, like that you're just in there. So as time goes on, you get less impressed by people. I mean, we're still impressed. Like we had Doug Stanhope on the podcast. We're still stoked about that, but just stuff to do with people or achievements, like none of it seems as mind blowing as before.
Yeah, especially like the more superficial-ish thing. I don't know. Like I guess I'll be thrilled to see Mind Under Matter on a marquee, but I've also seen my name on like a zillion marquees already. It was very exciting at first. You're like a billboard in Atlantic City with Greg Giraldo and
R.I.P. 10 years ago. Damn.
Yeah.
Or no, 12 years ago.
Something like that. Yeah. What a character.
Did you know him well?
And
ish, just like featured for him or stuff.
We had the same manager, and he was very kind to me, and like watched my stuff and was like excited to work with me before we had worked together. We were already like talking on the phone and stuff. I think he was just like a comedy. I think he just actually liked comedy and liked comedians and was just an enthusiastic, supportive person, which is like, I'm supportive of my friend. Like if you're a good friend of mine and like I really respect what you do, like I'm as supportive as they come, but I don't like watch openers and stuff like carefully and like give them notes and stuff. But he was one of those guys that could do that.
Geraldo or the manager?
Geraldo. But he, I mean, the first time we met, he was pretty fucked up, like already. I was surprised when he was able to get on stage and put on a fucking awesome show.
All muscle memory, huh?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I was with my girlfriend, and at the time we went down to Atlantic City. We're in a casino because we were supposed to like drive down together with Greg, and he was gonna like be with his lady, and we were all gonna like, I don't know, go shopping and do couples things or something. And
just
then,
imagine walking around with like Neiman Marcus bags, a big baguette sticking out of it for some reason.
And he had something happened with whatever lady he'd went through a divorce, and he was like in and out of like all sorts of relationships and going kind of girl crazy and stuff with things.
And think of back then, he was like, if he was getting in a fight with his girlfriends he was dating, he was doing it on a flip phone. And like having to type out stuff by pressing like 22266
or a BlackBerry.
Oh, or a BlackBerry, yeah. But he died, or maybe he did have a smartphone towards the end there. But when someone died more than 10 years ago, I'm like, what era was that? Did they catch social media? Did they catch the smartphone thing? Or
yeah, it was. I remember he was like, "Hey, can you come up to my hotel room and bring." Like, I'm going to need some like nasal spray. So other sounds like, oh boy.
I'm supposed to be sending out those texts.
Yeah. I got up there and he's like answered the door looking all crazy. And he's just like, has, you know, like lots of Coke on the table and stuff. And had been doing Coke for
like Scarface level, or probably not big as Scarface, but like a pile.
A lot. Yeah, an unreasonable amount of Coke, and to be like traveling with and stuff.
Yeah,
and we were like,
he definitely seemed like
far
an
away
uppers
from
guy.
the show. We were like 2-3 hours from showtime, and he was freaking out about not being able to do the show, and like knew that I was like hip to things or whatever. And I was just like, would you like me to just hold on to your cocaine for a few hours? And then like after the show, I'll give it back to you. No, I'll be fine. I'll be fine. And then he wasn't fine. He wasn't fine at all. And he was weird. And then he got on stage. He was perfect.
Damn,
he was great.
That's what I think that happened with Charlie Parker and with Jaco Pastorius too, where they were at their worst, at their most substance abuse selves. They could still hold it together on stage. And because of that, it never was perceived as a problem to a lot of people and to themselves, because it's like, look, see, I'm doing the field sobriety test perfectly. I'm selling out shows. I'm still hitting every note, but then you're just like a millimeter away from death still. But it's weird how much muscle memory can, I don't know if it's all muscle memory, but you know, metaphorically muscle memory you can still do your thing while ripped.
I had shows, I'm not kidding you, this happened multiple times. I had shows that I blacked out. Like I did like on a Saturday. I remember one, I had like friends in town and stuff, and I would just, you know, be doing whatever, drinking during the day. And I'm like, I just got to go hop on stage quick or whatever. I'll be right back. And sometimes it'd be a club where people would send up shots. I remember, I think it was the Laughs,
Boston,
Laughs outside of Seattle. It was in Kirkland, Washington. I have a distinct memory of doing a Friday night, blacking out the entire thing. 2 shows. I wake up on Saturday. I had performed 2 shows the night before that I have zero memory of at all. Like I remembered walking into the club and like getting a couple drinks, and I've been drinking, and that was it. And I'm like, oh man, hope I'm not fired. I walk into that show on Saturday and everyone was like, man, you were on fire last night. I don't know what you were doing. I was like, what did I say? I have no recollection.
And another thing about the Mexicans.
Just sloppy and racist.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also I was never I was never like a asshole drunk either. So like people always let me get away with stuff. But yeah, Geraldo would like, we were supposed to, I worked for him, I opened for him and stuff some, and like we would talk, but there was like several times where I was opening for him. Not several. There was a few times I was opening for him and he'd have like a family emergency come up last minute and I would need to then be the headliner.
Oh, fun.
For like the whole week of like, but I was a capable headliner, but it was a bunch of people showing up who were there to see Greg Geraldo.
They didn't even know? They wouldn't even announce that he's not on the bill?
They would offer people their like money back and stuff like that at the door, but they would find out like at the door that this comic that was like, you know, had a decent amount of heat at the time and was pretty popular for like that club level.
Cool.
So yeah. Memories.
Yeah. The Greg Geraldo episode.
Yeah.
I wonder if people know, like, you wonder who survives to the next, because obviously Carlin gets shared around in memes and stuff, and maybe Pryor a little bit too, but you wonder if people, the younger generation knows about these people that we know from 90s and 2000s comedy. Like, did they make it to this? Maybe in 10 years they'll know them, but
a lot of people still listen to Sirius radio.
Yeah.
And so, you know, comedy radio is something that didn't really exist, at least not at the scale that it does now. And then there's like a sweet spot of it that was like before Pandora and Spotify and stuff really took off. There was like when Howard Stern went to Sirius radio or whatever. And there was that sweet spot where they took control of the market pretty well for a while. You'd buy a new car, you would get a 6-month subscription for free or whatever for buying your car. So every truck driver is listening to it and everything else. Podcasting hadn't really taken off yet. No. And there was like 3 or 4 different comedy stations that were all pretty popular. I mean, I know because I used to get pretty good royalties, spins from it. I still get some, but it's still, I think that like Hedberg and stuff still lives on through, because
and Hedberg's very evergreen. I wonder if Geraldo is, I could be wrong here, but he was more topical than Hedberg, of course. Mm-hmm. It's very, he was very smart. He almost was a lawyer, I think. Mm-hmm. Not that all lawyers are smart, but you got to be kind of smart at least to get to that level. And he was just so quick, and his joke density, especially in the roast context, was so like just bam, 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 bam. But if he's talking about, you know, George Bush or something for 30 minutes, like who's going to listen to George Bush material in 2022? The painter, George Bush, the painter that goes to horse racing with Ellen. When did he bomb people? He didn't bomb anyone. He just draws pictures of his feet in the bathtub.
George Bush, the painter.
It's funny how quickly you can rebrand yourself. That's a benefit of the short memories you have. You can like be the worst person ever, and then just like, because doesn't OJ Simpson have a Twitter and still is giving hot takes and stuff?
I don't know. I think so. I mean, I think I do, like, when I think about what I want Mom to be on a regular episode, this is more of a reflection episode, but when I think about what I want it to be, like, I want people to be, I mean, I think that we've had, like the episodes where we, you know, just set up basics of, here's the big 5 personality indicator, and this is what this is about. Here's these sub-selves. Here's this idea about the behaviors past and stuff. I think that would be something that 10 years from now I'll be able to look back on and be like, yeah, those were, I remember those as being like good fundamental ideas that like still carry a lot of weight.
With a pinch of the current moment, maybe, if it slips in.
Yeah. But all the current moment stuff is usually just a case study on like, okay, now that we've learned all of this and explored this idea, now let's examine this news of the day sort of thing. Because the only topical stuff that we've really dove into at all is lots of, is like COVID references, and that's, people aren't going to forget about global pandemics anytime.
That's not what Yuval says. Actually, it might be forgotten in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
He said that I don't know. The Spanish flu was forgotten about like 3 weeks later or something. Maybe 3 years later.
But I think people will be interested in, like, I dove back through the literature and things that came out at that time. So I don't know. I think it's something that will, I think that it will be evergreen in the sense that we're going to keep on having like various pandemics and things that spring up. And I know from learning about the history of it that like the same sort of shit that is going to happen pretty much every time.
Yeah. Next time we'll still wear masks, but it'll have like the Roman letter 2 on it. And then we'll all just be walking around with the sequel. It would be nice to have a clean break between the first pandemic and the second one. So if it bleeds into the next one, that's kind of dumb. But if it really is over and then we get a second sequel or a second one, which is a sequel, that would be dope.
Yeah, that would be dope. How about I read one from Discord?
Yeah, let's read.
Because that's another thing. Like Discord's a thing that. Did I even have a Discord before Mind? Yeah, I did, but it's a lot more active. It's still a small community, but especially since we started planning the festival, it's been that much more active. It's just cool because you kind of get to choose your own adventure. So if you want to hear about like technology or science or music or whatever else, and there's a festival one, you can. But I posted on Mind Under Matter about this, and there was a good one from Double Salt Steve. Said, congratulations on the milestone. In an era where anyone and everyone thinks they need to host a podcast, I applaud your ability to carve out a niche conversation that is engaging, stimulating, and inspirational. As you reflect on the past 365 days, I'm interested to hear if this first year was exciting, like the first year of dating, full of hope, excitement, belief that anything is possible, and a feeling of being untouchable, or was it more like freshman year, made up of moments of doubt, angst, awkwardness, and the drive that tomorrow is one day closer to year 2?
I think both, right?
Maybe probably it was somewhere in between. Regardless, indulge us, please, with a stroll down memory lane.
That's weird that dating is like, the first year. Maybe just that's an individual reference there, but the first year of dating, just full of possibility. I remember that as being more of an anxious thing, because you're trying to, live, not even if you live together, but like be with another person in a way that it's different than a friendship, but it's like got overlap with friendship and romance. So it's like this third thing that's not family, not friend. It's dating. Like, what is this? What are the rules here? Why is this irrational thing happening? Am I the bad guy? Did I do the bad thing then? No, that felt a lot more anxious there. But no, I'd say it was mainly positive than it was negative. I wasn't that worried about this because the stakes are low.
Yeah. I mean, first off, my dating usually historically was more of a, I tend to do the head over heels obsessive. First year does tend to be like,
you text
really
them good morning after the first date. First date at 6 a.m. You're just like, good morning.
Usually my first date, I'm next to them. But there is, I would say that it's actually a habit that I'm trying to break, is that and I haven't done in a while.
Haven't dated or haven't broke the habit
before? No, I haven't dated, and I haven't. I haven't. I've talked to the ladies and stuff recently, or explored things since my last relationship ended in 2019. I haven't been like, let's move in together within like a week, which is what I typically kind of tend. It's a bit of an exaggeration, but I'm a lesbian couple.
That's what I hear. If we haven't talked about this before, the general trope is that lesbian couples move in together in the first date. Bring the
U-Haul on the first date.
Yeah, and then
I'm one of those.
And then gay men when they do move in together, like 8 years later, they have separate bedrooms. Or, they hook up before they learn names or something. These are all generalizations, but it's just the fun dichotomy there.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I would think I would just say it's been both. I would say that the quality of the show I was happy with from the start, and I feel like kept on improving, but not even that much, because there wasn't that much to improve upon. Like, most of the big things that we've tried to improve upon is like, how do we market this different to find more people, to get more people in the community? And how do we think about Patreon things, or figure out editing stuff, or figure out like this new, like, how do we get the better picture of the camera? Like that stuff has always needed more work than just our conversation dynamic and things. Other than the survey episodes, doing too many political episodes of the survey episodes was the thing that I beat myself up for, after it happened, because it was like, oh, we shouldn't have done 4. There was too many questions. There's 4 episodes, and it was all one episode. Any one of those episodes was great, but 4 in a row was too many. And
was it 4 in a row, or was 2 regular, 2 bonus?
Yeah, we did 2 bonus, and it wasn't that big a deal or anything. It was just the sort of thing that I've spin my wheels about, because I want to think about how do we keep on putting out good thing, but stumbling upon do a Q&A episode and things like that, where fun little improvements to build the community and to help people engage with the show has been fun. But I don't think that the show has, I think the show started being really funny and really interesting, if I don't say so myself. I mean, I've done a lot of podcasting. I have a sense of when the conversations go well and when they don't. And I feel like from the get-go, we were funny and interesting and entertaining. And we've maybe gotten a little more so, but I think it's just been.
Oh, you think we're more?
That
interesting
same level.
My fear is that we're same or less.
No, I think we've improved.
Oh, hell yeah.
I think our flow's a little better, because it's you used to just make me laugh a lot, but now I know why you make me. So I can set things up and predict, and I know okay, and then I can get this, and I can't just hit me with a McKenna.
Yeah.
I can't ask for the impression. I just have a better sense of
you actually should be able to. We should get to that point. That's on me for not getting it quick enough. But also the very first episode, there was more of that. There's going to be the magic of the first week plus mid quarantine. Like it was just a different feeling in the air, like where it's like, this is it. This is the whole world, Zoom. And now we're kind of 1 foot in the virtual, and we're also thinking about touring and stuff. But that was always on the table. But before, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I guess that's everything in terms of growth is more about how do we use like social media platforms better? How do we like add voice notes or some new feature so the audience can engage more? The art's been great since the beginning. Like it's not like the art has gotten better. It's just been great the whole time.
Yeah. How do we turn blue at the snap of our fingers? McCool, if you can make me blue for just this. Okay, I'm back now.
And so it's, yeah. So now it's, I guess the building is like putting the festival together, not just because we want this festival to go off right so that we can do this again. And this can be like somewhat of our business model going forward in the future is during summers. We'll do festivals with little bits of touring and that sort of thing. Because it's also different. I've always just been such a fan of like, what is basically no one else doing? Like even
shutting up.
Yeah,
but that won't get us anywhere though.
It's not even just being like, oh, I'm an original, no one's ever thought like me before, but just like going and seeing internationally that a lot of people do solo shows and themed shows and being like, oh, no one does that in the US. I want to do that in the US. That's what I want to like explore what that would.
Thanks for coming. Tonight we'd like to talk about one topic. We're going to be talking about the one thing and focusing on it all night.
And that's what I learned, to never shave my mustache again.
In front of my aunt's new husband, yeah.
But yeah, so like the idea of doing a festival and the idea of touring with, obviously other people tour with podcasts, but it's not everyone's doing it. And I think we can do it in a different way. I just like the idea of doing things like sort of unique. So that's, if anything, that's like what I think a lot of season 2 will just be more about. How do we build the community more, not just in terms of numbers, but just like make it more fun for people to be involved, to leave voice notes, to join a festival, to how do we get touring going and figure that out. So, and just lots of stuff like that. Yeah. But the podcast itself, pretty great. There's plenty of doubt, angst, not so much, like other than technical stuff happens and it's like infuriating. Like you switch over, we just switched to this Anchor FM and it like threw off things on like, oh, now Here We Are isn't showing up on Audible podcasts. And so it's all just like, to anyone else would be like insanely boring. But if you're the person that's like, podcast is now no longer on this or that platform, and it's because some line of code got pasted in a wrong thing and you're dealing with customer service, there's so much shit like that you would never think about before starting a podcast. That is, it's a nightmare. It's awful.
Yeah.
And
big podcasts still deal with it. And I remember when Bill Burr's thing got switched over to a new platform and then the old link wouldn't work. So if you were subscribed to him before, it would just seem like his podcast stopped. The podcast art was missing and it just looked like powerpress.org or whatever the thing he was using. It just showed Libsyn. Or first half of Rogan's, like he didn't even have a good audio engineer. He just had his friend doing it. So it was just sounded bad the whole time. And then finally got a more pro guy to do it. And we forget that it's all over. All over the place, not as that it's ended, but
I had already had all of the other podcast experience to know, like, oh, actually just like make it good. It's worth paying the editor more and everything else. But yeah, so I just kind of forgot and spaced out at the beginning of this, but we were going to run with that theme from the past episode of rather than trying to accomplish everything and having the idea of like, and then we'll be the biggest podcast the world's ever seen, and we'll be CGI and all of the other thing. Like what is, rather than trying to go from 0 to 60, how do you go from 0 to something? And I actually think with the podcast, we went from 0 to like 30.
Yeah, at least 30.
Like, at least from the get-go. But so that was kind of interesting.
But the fact that we didn't start with, okay, well, we can't start till we get 4K cameras. We can't start till we have backgrounds. We started with just
what we had,
regular webcams, whatever mic we had. And then that is episode 0, episode 1. And yeah, I think we even discussed how it's fun to see the evolution of it. And it's still evolving. Who knows? 3D cameras in the next 2 years, AIs where you can ask us questions and it'll respond as though it's us answering it. We'll record an episode of us talking to the AI versions of ourselves and seeing if like, yeah, that is kind of what I would say to that. Or, oh, that needs to be tweaked a little bit.
That is right around the corner. That will be interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be fun to do, like a Turing experiment.
What's that?
Of
Turing test?
Or Turing.
Yeah.
Turing test.
I'm actually on a Tourette's rabbit hole right now, but that's for another episode. But there's this Twitch streamer called Sweet Anita, and she has really just very fun tics and stuff, and like we'll just or just out of nowhere we'll like throw a cup of coffee against the wall, and you learn about the condition a lot, because a lot of people think that, you know, Tourette's is just shouting swears or something, but they embrace it now, like, and you'll see compilations of 4 people with Tourette's triggering each other's tics, so it's like a bunch of mouse traps going off. But they all have good, it's not at their expense, it's like with them because they've embraced it and all that. And I just that's a current rabbit hole. But yeah, Turing test with our AI versions of ourselves would be fun. And how long it'll take for me to detect whether it's really you or not.
Yeah. So I've liked that. I've liked doing like just implementing the Tuesdays that I've been doing lately. I've been more productive. I can't write it off to that necessarily because I've done a lot of things. I haven't been drinking, and then just like lots of other things are going on. So I just feel like I just need to get shit done more than I had to a few months ago. But it definitely has helped to just be like, haven't cleaned the bathroom in a long time. Too easy. And then I flossed. I told you that. We talked about this off air.
Yeah, during a team meeting, how you're good at mouthwash, but you don't floss that often, which really you should do the opposite. Or do both, but floss is more important than brush or mouthwash.
Flossing's more important than brushing.
That's what my dental hygienist said. She said, I would rather have my patients floss than brush. Like if I had to choose between the two, I would recommend that one if they only did one.
Wow.
Because it gets lodged in there and then it starts creating the plaque sense. And that's really tough to get out. And, you know, no one likes those hooks.
Yeah.
Dentists still using hooks, 100-year-old or more than 100-year-old technology.
Yeah. So like starting some things like that, basically, because that's like, oh, that's a fun, because we've talked about, it's like, well, what would actually a fun nice cult look like? Because there's people that have like cult, because we're in the grassroots category of things where we're never going to be like the Beyonce. So you get to be in like more of like the Aesop Rock category of like, this guy has a cult following, crazy amounts of respect, never going to be huge, but really well liked. And like, that's the sort of like aim of like, how do you get something like that going? And also at the same time, because of our like different varying views between like science and mysticism and talking about religion and stuff, like what do you, as someone that used to just hate religion, what are some of the things that I'm now like, religion gets maybe a few things right, and maybe people do need some of these traditions and stuff. And so what are practices that actually improve people's life, and what are like just fun little routines and world building that we can do?
And really, it's, South Park and Raised by Wolves and many other things show examples of, it's not religion that you might not like. It's the dogma that you don't like. It's the not questioning part, because dogmatic atheism is just as stupid.
Mm-hmm.
And isn't scientific either.
Right. You want another voice note real quick as we start wrapping up?
Hey, boys. I know you guys have been friends for a long time before starting the podcast, but I was wondering if there's been anything you've learned about each other over this past year of making the podcast together. Cheers.
Oh, man. Many things, but off the top of my head, it's tough to... what have I learned new about you that I didn't know before? Like, other than like little stories here, like Pete Davidson coming and seeing you before, or the other times where you really injured yourself, besides the jumping off the cliff, or various various hijinks, but like core personality things that surprised me, I can't really think of any.
Yeah, same. I just kind of like dial in to Ramin more and more. And, so I guess I just like it's always been only good surprises come to mind. The thing that comes to mind, maybe one of my favorite episodes, and I don't even think it was like necessarily the best episode or anything. It's certainly, there's episodes where I've enjoyed like bigger ideas more and everything else, but maybe my favorite episode was the Too Many Hats one. And that's like, in terms of, I do have like, I feel like I have pretty good vision of like, oh, I know this will kind of work out, and I can put the puzzle pieces together and predict, okay. And that was one where I was like, I don't know if this is going to work, but we'll just talk about what jobs we would like. And it might be the best episode we've ever done. I'm sure some people would think that would put it up there in their top one. And to start in that episode and then be like, oh, Ramin can not only do a perfect impression of every job that there is upon saying it, with no warning of what job they're supposed to be. That cracked me up endlessly. But then the other thing that was hilarious to me was that your willingness to do it seemed like all of the jobs seemed good to you.
Yeah.
And that was shocking to me. I would have been, I don't even know, like the whole time I was like, I think you're lying. If not to me, yourself.
Maybe like, I'm just starved for structure, and I would hate it after like an hour, but there's so little structure in my life. Like, this is the most structured thing I do. We plan it. We know when the episode goes out. There's somewhat of a format to the show, but aside from that, it's like, oh, I need to have a clipboard and report to this boss and wear a hard hat. That sounds cool. But much like Paris Hilton and Nicole Richie, I'd probably hate it by the end of the episode.
I have hold on a second.
You want me to inseminate the bull with my hand? Yep, that's how we do it. It's more effective than when we use a funnel. You're not supposed to lean that close. Justin McKinney had a great bit. I hope this isn't burning his bit because it's already on YouTube. It's not burning it if it's already on YouTube.
Wait, what was that? I was trying to load up a thing and I was kind of hearing that last impression out of context. Was that you?
Inseminating a bull with my hand, and then it blew in my face because I was standing too close to it. And then it reminded me of this Justin McKinney bit of, I think he used to be if I'm remembering the bit right, he used to be a cop, and if there's an injured deer out in New Hampshire, like as the cop, you're supposed to go shoot it and like put it out of its misery. And it's his first week on the job or something, and he didn't know that was part of the job. And then the other guys on the squad are telling him, like, you want to like lift its ear up and just put it right up next to its eye, and then one shot. That's the cleanest way to do it. And then he goes there, and then he didn't expect there to be an audience, and there's like a bunch of people just waiting for him. And then he just shows up confidently and like gets out the gun and then does that, and then he just gets sprayed with the deer blood from head to toe, and then just pretends like that's what he was supposed to do, like it was intentional. And then he goes back to the station. They're like, we were just kidding, right? That's like, that could that's the most dangerous way of doing it. Like, we thought you clearly knew we were joking. But it's also some first day on the job hazing. But look up Dear Justin McKinney or whatever the bit's name is to hear the real version with the punchline spoiled. I love spoiling punchlines.
Here's a little birthday gift that I was loading it up, and you may have seen me jump because I had the audio higher than I realized. I just scared the crap out of myself. But here's, for those of you that have video, I would toggle to that. My favorite person on Instagram. Yes. It's so long.
I love how the reveal happened at the first second, and then the rest of the video is just the clapping. But normally the trick is saved for the end. But this one we got Christmas early. Excellent. That's ours forever. We can always have it to cheer us up on a sad day.
Yeah. What are you looking forward to second season of the show?
Let's see. Getting our staff to drink not full urine, but maybe have it diluted with tap water so that they can have some more hydration, because drinking urine on its own actually isn't that hydrating, regardless of 10% of doctors that are,
regardless of what we previously told our staff.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to, this is a stupid answer in some ways, but I'm looking forward to the stuff we don't know that we're going to unlock yet. The stuff that we don't know is a cool idea yet, and then occurs to us in 6 months. And then a year from now we think, oh, and we didn't even have the ear, nose, bingo section of the podcast yet. And that's the crux of the biscuit, is the ear, nose, bingo, where we put one finger on our nose, one finger on our ear, and then play bingo. Like the show didn't do anything before that. Aside from that, looking forward to having more guests. Not that often. We want to keep it special, but our quality of guests, we always promise you the toppest quality of guests. We won't reveal who we're thinking of, but hopefully we got you on that first one. So next one will be just as exciting, and just more, more everything.
Quarterly guests.
Yeah, quarterly guests.
What do you think? Quarterly?
Just more everything. Not money, but also money. More money, more people, more interaction from the community, more branching out and growing the world in ways that we don't know yet. So I look forward to the surprises in which we'll surprise ourselves and the way you, the viewer, will surprise us.
I'm supposed to have some shirts coming my way, right?
Yep.
I look forward to more mom shirts because they make me happy when I wear them around. I'm like, this is like you were saying with the restaurant, but it's like, oh, this is my show, and it's not just a picture of my own face with an arrow.
Oh, that's coming. We got to do that for like episode 56 or something. The
but
ego
it's
episode.
Actually cool art that means so. Usually most of my shirts I see, not necessarily this sloth one that I wore, because this is what we wore on episode 0. We both dressed the same as episode 0 today.
Yeah, go back and look. Episode 0.
I'll be like, ooh, hummingbird means something to me, or this, and to have something that was like an idea that was from a conversation that we had, then turned into something, and then I get to wear it, and it looks good. Not like one thing that I've learned in 17 years of doing comedy is that our shirts are in the top 0.1% of merch shirts that exist.
Real? Hell yeah. If only we could get the numbers there.
There's some real bad stuff out there. And to like actually be able to mix art and comedy and philosophy and everything in such a fun way. I'm looking forward to touring. The festival's like the biggest thing right now on my mind that I'm excited about. Like, just found out there's paddle boats there and got very excited.
Is paddle boat the one with feet?
Yeah.
Cool. Is there paddle boards or just boats?
There's gonna be there's paddle boats. There's also rowboats, and I'm bringing 2 inflatable stand-up paddle boards. But there's a person that they know. Do you want to? Should we say the name of the company now? The property, or do you want to?
Yeah, let's wait. Should we?
Okay.
Just in case it burns down tomorrow or something.
We can wait. It's on Discord. Oh, if you want to go to Discord,
more motivation to go to Discord, even though I'm not there yet, but I will be next week.
And so go to Patreon so you can get the Discord link, and there's a bunch of people chatting about the festival on there. But I'm bringing a couple paddle boards, but he knows someone that also. So they do festivals, and they often have someone that sells stand-up paddle boards that just has a bunch of demo boards that comes and brings them, usually for free. If they are for rent, they're like going to be super cheap.
Nice.
And so I was like, I just keep on finding out. The more I find out, the more ideas that I have about the festival, the more and more excited I get about it. And not only do I get to like come up with ideas like, this is what I'd want in a festival, and now I can make that happen, but I get to hear other people's fun ideas and stuff. And that I'll get to have like the game Codenames, a Codenames tournament at some point.
Giant Codenames, like giant chess, but with big cards.
Yeah, there is. I'm not sure we're going to have giant cards made, which would be fun,
sure.
But there are larger. There's Codenames XXL.
Nice.
For
Magnum Codenames.
But some stuff like that. But then we have like 2 things that have taken the back burner in my mind have been the Mind Under Matter book, which I think is awesome, and the bits that I have worked on I'm excited about, but it requires me listening to every damn episode, and that's difficult for me. That's a Too Easy Tuesday sort of situation. And then the guided rumination app is like, I haven't been recording as many lately. I'm kind of waiting to see what the app looks like before recording more, but there's some things like that could be happening and probably will be happening in season 2. And so I bet we're only going to think of more ideas like that.
Yeah.
And like always like 25% of them end up like actually becoming a thing. And so, which is a pretty high percentage.
And we're starting later. I mean, not as individual podcasters, but as this joint venture, we're starting later than a lot of other shows. And it's fun to look back at, look where Your Mom's House was like 6 years ago and how much they've grown. And like this, so many things you see as these giant operations were once little tiny little closet sort of operations that flowered out. So it's fun to think of like, oh, maybe we'll keep growing like that too in 5 years.
And then we have our own look and own style, because most of the, like when I follow a bunch of podcasts, and usually when I see their highlight clips, I'll be like, oh, that's good. They have like clearly have good cameras and a nice setup and everything. And then I'll realize, then I'll see another podcast that has the exact same thing. I'm like, oh, that's just a podcast studio.
Oh,
they just go together to a studio, like a network, and all of the so every single one has this like same plant in the background. And
the same fake wood background. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like that. We got to make ours so different, and between the combination of your art and having the world's best podcasting editor and Banana killing it on scheduling all the social media and doing all of a bunch of pain in the butt stuff and making that happen.
Yeah.
I'm super excited.
We're unstoppable, except for if some stuff happens.
And that stops it.
Yeah.
Unless we stop, we're unstoppable. Or if we stop, or if things stop us, we're outside of that, we're unstoppable.
Or if the culture shifts to where listening to people talk, just people aren't into it anymore. Like this last 20 years was like a disco era of listening to people talk, and then it's all ASMR afterwards.
Oh man, I'm clearly betting a lot of time and a livelihood on that not happening, because I think that there's still tons of people that don't listen to podcasts that will be interested, and it wasn't the right thing for them, or they just haven't wanted to deal with downloading the app.
Yeah.
And they haven't heard enough of their coworkers talk about whatever podcast yet, but like network television is gone. And I think podcasting is here to stay for a bit.
Yeah.
Other than me just jinxing it with those words.
Yeah, I think it's just getting started, actually. As much as I like to joke about it becoming just ASMR later, I think more and more people, especially I see it in myself. Sometimes I'll be listening to music, which I'm enjoying at the time, but somewhere in my head, it's like, you know what would be even better than this? Listen to people talk. It's like, but I told myself I would listen to more music. Come on, just a little taste of people talking. And then I just listen to people talk about what stuff I don't remember, because it must
have been impactful.
No.
So I'm just generally excited, and we have, what was the other thing that I don't know. I've just been excited about the feedback that we've got. And I think season 2 is just like marketing stuff. And that's even the fun thing about marketing, is that usually like marketing is kind of like a fly by night thing. Like if you're a stand-up comedian and you want, the old model would be like, and then you market your merch afterwards. So you have this silly joke that you do so that people will buy the like fart whistle thing from your
keep
table afterwards.
I've got keep it in your ass shirts. It's got like a hand covering the center of the butt.
Now you've cursed us to having to make a keep it in your ass.
Hey, pal. Kiiya. Kia. You could be driving a Kia today. Most people could. How much are Kias? Like $800? No, they're probably like $10,000 or something. I just remember them as being the cheap car because of Paul Varghese jokes. No one grows up wanting to drive a Kia.
That was a smooth transition from buttholes to cars.
To Kia. Look at that poster of, that's his joke. Look at the poster of the Kia and the blonde in the bikini pushing it.
So yeah, excited for that because the like podcasting year, like the marketing funnels are like, okay, how do we get people to watch a few seconds? And then that would be interesting. And then how do you get them to watch, to then like follow you on Instagram and then like see a few more highlights and then see some other art and then maybe go to a timestamp. Ooh, maybe they'll see the timestamp of where that highlight was and watch like 5 minutes. Now they're there. Maybe they'll give a whole episode a listen. Now they're subscribing. Now they listen to 10 episodes and now we got them on Patreon. And it's like all of that is like, it's such a long-term relationship of like building friends and building communities with people that
you have to earn trust.
It's a fun. Yeah, so it's a more fun kind of marketing than just trying to like peddle supplements to people or something like that. We're just trying to like grow a community more. So that's fun and cool, and I get to use all of the things that I've learned over the years for stuff like that. So that's what I'm looking forward to doing in season 2.
Me too.
So
season wise.
And yeah, so check us out on Patreon if you want. Again, you get your own episode for $5. Our retention on Patreon is phenomenal because once people see all of the content that we're putting out over there and the quality of it, they tend to stick around.
Yeah.
We got a zillion other things that we've been adding. So we appreciate you guys. And that's how we pay this is what I wanted to say. Bonus episode. Usually on Patreon, there's a monthly bonus episode for a certain tier only. We recorded it with the team, with Matt McCool and Rhianna Banana. And then afterwards, we were like, we can't just, it's bad enough we keep them in a physical dungeon and, drinking their own urine and stuff. We force them like a hostage, given a script to record an episode with us. And then we're going to just hide that on Patreon. So this month, just to show you a little bit of some of the bonus content that we typically do, and 2, so you can meet our lovely, amazing team and get to know them. So, when you don't go and support Patreon, who you are responsible for starving to death. We are putting that bonus episode this month is going out publicly. So in just a couple days, we're putting out a special bonus episode out everywhere. And again, if you want to start checking out the video, now you can go to either YouTube or Spotify. Either one. We don't have a stake in either, but we're just adding more and more possibilities for you to choose from. And until next time,
keep on salivating, honeys.
Season 2.
Ding.